Biggest question I get asked was, so is it better to do interest only or repayment? Now, in this video, I'm going to talk about what I do, what I think, and why I think so. And then it's down to you to decide whether that works for you or not. So in effect, I buy never to sell first. I teach people how to buy never to sell, because once I've taught you how to buy the block of flats and you can recycle all your money out and you leave that flat alone, you take your money that you invested in it to begin with to buy the next block, but then you're generating passive income through the rents across all of these individual flats in that block. Why do you need to sell will be my kind of retort. So I buy never to sell. I teach other people buy never to sell. So the question is always like, well, do I put them on repayment or interest only? Well, I used to think, and I inherited that thinking through maybe parents and whatever else they knew about finance. But as I've grown into it, I realized actually I should not be paying the properties down as I go along, because what's happening here is I'm using today's money to pay today's debt, and that is not as good as using tomorrow's money to pay yesterday's debt. Now, what I mean by that is if you're not economically kind of qualified, I guess, or trained, what I mean by that is there are things that play with money. One, you've got net present value of money. Two, you've got inflation that erodes the value of money. Three, you've got capital appreciation on the asset itself. Four, you've got rental income that goes in line with inflation. Five, you've got debt value that decreases in line with inflation. So there are lots of things that are happening throughout you owning these assets. And when I sat and actually computed, which I then go through as part of my one-to-one course with my coachees about this scenario, it is evident to see why we should really look at maximizing the income that we're producing today, either by taking the money, the surplus one between interest only and repayment, and using that to fund more properties, or use it as part of your dividends and everything else. Because what happens over the long term is few things. One, the property will on average double every 10 years. Now, everybody will say, oh, it doesn't. Just look at the data, mate. You will see that on average 10 to 12 years, most properties, especially in the southeast, will double. Maybe in the north, probably around 15 years. But the idea is the property keeps going up and up and up. Two, rental income increases. No matter what people say, I started renting a house that I've still got now at 600 quid. Now, 20 odd years on, the property is worth 8 times more, but also 50 grand to 400 grand now. And the rent has gone from 600 quid in 2000 to almost 1800 quid now. So rent goes up, the value of the asset goes up, the debt value, so I borrowed 50,000, assume that we still owe the 50,000 on interest only. That 50,000 today is worth still 50,000, but 50,000 today is not as expensive as what it was 20 years ago. 20 years ago, 50,000 was a lot of money. Think about it in the context of £1 million. People talk about, oh, you're a property millionaire. But actually people think, no, you're only a millionaire. Now it's like the billionaire is the big thing now. So what's happened here, the value of money decreases over time. And that happens because of inflation. In the last kind of 2 years or so, since Liz Truss and everything else, COVID, we've had inflation in double digits. That means our value of our debt has decreased significantly. So to summarize, what happens with your debt values are, your debt value goes down in line with inflation. Your rent income goes up in line with inflation. So you've got almost a divergent, polar opposite things happening. Debt, the amount you owe feels cheaper over time. The amount of money that you make over the rent goes up over time. Two, your capital appreciation is going up over time. So in 20 years time, the property that you bought at 100 grand is worth probably 400,000 now. And then you can then decide what you do with that over 20 years. And the third part is, let's say you've been making an interest only payment, and each month you're making let's say 400 pound a month net. If you had a repayment mortgage, you would have only been making about 150 pound a month. So with that 400 pound a month, let's say it's 400 pound a month times 12 is 4,800, 5,000 pounds a year. Let's say you use that now for the next 20 years. That's 5,050 is 100 grand. So you've also made another income of £100,000. So that's why I don't sell. The debt goes down, the rental goes up, the amount of money that I owe feels a lot less over time. I also get to enjoy and use that £100,000 over that period of 20 years. And what I do personally is I wait for the 20th to the 25th year, and then I start to pay them down, because then that £50,000 that I owe on that house, nowadays £50,000 is not a lot of money. If the rent is £1,800 a month, let's say it's £24,000, let's say it's £20,000 a month, a year. So that's within 2.5 years of rent. If there was no mortgage on it, I would have paid that £50,000 off. And that's why I choose interest only rather than repayment. And I hope that makes sense. So if you want any more information, visit www.quidditygroup.co.uk. If you're interested in joining my one-to-one, you get that level of thinking, not just buy a house, put a tenant in it. I am going to shape the way you invest in a very different way by using my 25 years experience. I've got a master's in economics. I've got an MBA from Warwick University. I invest with knowledge and business acumen, and I've grown a business from nothing to a multi-million-pound property portfolio. My name is Azid. I've been investing in property for the last 25 years. I specialize in multi-unit freehold blocks, and I'm one of the few people, only people really, that then teach and talk about on a one-to-one about title splitting, and I can make you the passive income that you need and the financial freedom that you are trying to achieve by investing in the right property, do the right things to it, pour all your money out to do it again and again, and within 4 years we'll get you to about £10,000 per month of passive income. If you're interested, send me a DM, go to www.quidditygroup.co.uk or email us azid@quidditygroup.co.uk. Thanks for watching.